Hey, Mr. Neville, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you making time for me. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So I actually grew up in the 13th Ward in the 80s on Valmont Street.
All right.
And so for me, reading your book was like a particular interest, because I'm just curious about what the neighborhood was like before I got there. So I was hoping I could ask you some questions just about the old neighborhood, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. So I'm curious, you write about how the racial dynamics in the neighborhood were during segregation. When I was there in the 80s and early 90s, my block was really mixed. I imagine it was maybe a little less mixed back in the 50s and 60s, but I'm curious just to ask you, like, what the sort of racial dynamics were within the neighborhood, like around Valence Street versus towards Valmont, towards Jefferson, and what the lay of the land was like for you when you were growing up.
Well, Valmont, that was mostly white.
Yeah.
It was, when I walked to school in the morning from Valence Street, I lived on Valence and Chestnut, and I walked across St. Charles about 12 more blocks to school, and it was a white neighborhood. And my mom used to always tell me to speak to people, so I'd speak, "Good morning, how you doing?" And nobody would say nothing to me.
Wow.
Till last year I was there, and a couple of people started saying hi. But you think about it, you knew where you were welcome when you were when you wasn't, so you try to, abide.
Right. Yeah. I know you wrote about like some businesses were, respectful and others weren't. Um, was that like a mix of like white business owners that were like towards in the Valence Street area? Like, were there
Well,
stores that you would go into?
there weren't no black owned stores, so it was,
Yeah.
and some of them were nice, like the one on my block. It was on Valence and Coliseum, the Bruzos. That family was nice, and we used to go out on Annunciation Street to Damalisi.
Oh yeah.
But they had a window where black would go and order a sandwich or whatever. You don't go inside, you stand by the window and wait.
Mm.
Tipitinas was like that first, you know,
Right before it became Tipitina's when it was that other bar room.
like yeah, it was the 501 or something like that.
Right, that's right, 501 Club. Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, dark history. I mean, I was also really interested in your book when you wrote about Trinity Church. At least I think it was Trinity. You referenced a church that had seating for black and white people separate
So
inside.
that wasn't Trinity, that was
Oh,
St.
okay.
Stephen's. It
And where was St. Stephen's located?
was on Napoleon and Camp,
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Um, and so Trinity was a black church then?
right? Where my great aunts, my daddy's mom and her sisters went, they used to give the picnics to Beta Springs and Waveland, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. What was the music like in Trinity Church?
Well, they were like, I remember because we went to the church, we went to Catholic church and Methodist church, and they would sing stuff like "Yes, Jesus loves me," and um,
They had like a full band in there on
no,
Sunday.
no, no, just choir,
Okay.
choir, yeah.
Okay.
And Catholic church, the Ave Maria always mesmerized me. I never knew the words except for the refrain, but it done something to my heart. And when I sang it, it was like I call it medicine.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people considered that medicine. Um, I know I did. I used to always go see your gospel set at Jazz Fest when I was growing up.
All right.
It always felt that way to me. Um, but back in the neighborhood, another thing I was curious about from 13th Ward, back in the day, and something that popped out at me in the book also was so many drummers in the area, right?
Well, at least next door to our house on Valence Street was Clarence Brown. He called him Junior Boy.
Yeah.
He played with Fats Domino and Leo Morris, Idris Muhammad. He got me one of my first gigs in a little band at the high school music teacher Solomon Spencer farm called the Avalons. and I played piano and sang with them. And the first one I did was in my mom had a sign for me to sing with an all blind band on Toulouse and Bourbon called the Driftwood Lounge. Art Jones was the upright bass player, it was his band, and Boy Blue on sax, Snooks Eaglin on guitar and vocal, and I played piano and vocal.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible band. What was Snooks like when he was that young? I know he was like sort of a child phenom, right?
I
Like,
mean, Snooks, I used to love to watch him play because he played like the flamenco
yeah,
type. Yeah, he was bad, man.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. But I'm thinking about all the drummers that came out of that area, and like other areas that produced a lot of drummers, like the Treme Sixth Ward area, a lot of
Mhm.
people who, study these things associate, well, a lot of drummers came up there because of all the second line activity, right? There was always drums in the street, which made me think like I'm wonder what you remember about um any second line activity through that neighborhood. I associate the parades back with being more towards Louisiana, back towards more towards Claiborne, but I wonder, were there any parades coming through towards the river on around Vallon Street at that time?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, you know, in New Orleans, anybody die, they have a second line. So you don't know who it is, you just follow the music. That's what I did anyway.
Yeah. Did you know any of the like look out for any particular brass bands or musicians at that time, or was it just like hear it and jump out the door and go?
It was like that. Yeah, I don't know the names or nothing like that, you know.
Yeah,
But in that neighborhood, Deacon John and his brothers lived up there.
right.
Idris Muhammad, Leo Morris, who else? Uh,
Zig was there, huh, when he was younger?
David and George and
Yeah. It's really kind of incredible talent right within a few blocks.
oh yeah.
Yeah. And another thing, thinking about sort of how that talent gets cultivated in that area, I was curious about because from I think everyone in New Orleans is familiar with the wild Chapatulas, but I'm curious about what Indians may have been in that area earlier, like 50s, 60s, before wild Chapatulas came out. Were there any like Indian practices in that
I
area?
don't remember anything before that. You know, I know the guys around the Treme area and around Dumaine and Orleans Street. They would have Indian practice at different ballrooms. You know, you go in and hear them playing the tambourine and singing the Indian song.
Yeah. Yeah, but not as much uptown in that area, right?
No,
Yeah. Um, Another little place in that area, I was curious about what it was like in that time frame. Because you talk about Benny's at one point, but I'm curious about, I think that was Jack, it was called Jack Callahan's, something like that.
yeah,
Do you have any memories of what it was like in that incarnation before it became Benny's?
Jack Callahan's was one that just to go to the window to be served.
Okay, one of those.
Yeah, but after some years, this guy named Benny, he lived behind the ballroom, and he some kind of way he used to work for Callahan and him. So he got to play some kind of way and open up Benny's bar. And my
Oh,
brother Cyril started the music and that
right,
with Uptown All Stars.
right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, when I was growing up, that was like, I was too, I was born in 81. So I feel like Benny's was really happening. I was a little too young to get in the mix, but as soon as I got to be a teenager, everyone was like, "Man, you should have been at Benny's."
Oh yeah. I mean, every time I remember John Goodman and Dennis Quaid, and they would come in town. That was the first place they'd head to, Benny's Bar.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. It's funny how a neighborhood spot could become like a destination like that.
Hmm.
But when the music's good, that'll usually do it.
Oh yeah, and it was a small place, but it was people would hang outside, you know. So
Right,
most of the crowd be out on Balance and Camp.
right. Um, I also was interested, there's a reference in your book to when you went to Green Middle School that you formed a little doo-wop group, and I didn't know anything. I don't know much about Green from that era. If there was like a music program or a band director there that was influential in the neighborhood, or if there were any other, if there was sort of like a musical identity around that school. Do you recall anything like that, or was it just a thing where? you were there, so that's what you were up to.
It was that, like we had the group at Rainier Hall and Wallace George and Ursula Gray and Evelyn Dent, and we used to go and do live things on the radio,
Oh, really?
But yeah, when I got
What
to hmm,
do you recall what radio studio you were going to and doing that?
WBOK, WYLD,
Mm-hmm.
and TIX. We've been on TIX,
Oh, wow.
and when I got to Cohen, I had a group there with a guy named L.C. Wallace, Roy Evans, and McCourts. I can't think of his first name, but our thing would be in the boys' bathroom with the good acoustics. Sounded like the Flamingos and Pookie Hudson and the Spaniards and Sonny Till and the Oreos.
Yeah.
And
Um,
the teacher would be looking for, he'd be digging it, and he said, "You boys better get to class." And I said, "I'm in class."
right. Um, so I guess was that before the Avalons, that singing?
That was the same. No, the Avalons was going on at the same time.
Same time. Okay.
We'd play fraternities and high school dances, stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, but you joined the Hawkettes a little bit after that, right?
Right.
Um, one thing I'm curious about from that sort of high school band era, I'd heard that Shine Robinson had a high school band downtown. I don't know if this is true, but that there was some like little rivalry between the Hawkettes and the band that they had going on downtown. Does that?
I don't remember the name of the band, but I remember because Hawkettes, they were all at Clark High School down in I guess the Tremere area.
Esplanade, yeah,
Yeah. And I can't remember what Shine's band was then.
right. But he was playing at he was playing at that age,
Oh yeah.
and you knew him at that time.
hmm
Um,
The thing about the New Orleans musicians, it was like a family. Everybody knew everybody.
yeah, it seems that way. What kind of guy was he, Shine?
Oh, Shine was cool. He had that rough voice. He sounded like Ray Charles or whatever. And when I was out with Tell Like It Is, he was my guitar player and band, arranger, whatever.
Yeah, that was something else I was really interested in the book because there's not a lot about Shine that's really been documented publicly. You know what I mean? Like for someone like me who came up after, when he was really around. So I think he passed in '89. Um, his records are just amazing. But there's really not a lot out there about him. So I was curious when I read that reference in your book, it sounded like when y'all were on the road that he was kind of the experienced road guy, like
Right.
he knew the clubs and stuff. I'm wondering, like, had he been out for a few years already at that point?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was 1966 and 67. 67 he was with me, yeah. Yeah, he'd been out before because like Joe Jones, who started managing me, he managed Chan and the Dixie Cups.
Right.
And they had been doing it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some, and you sort of mentioned this in the book, I think in a very respectful, sort of polite way, but I've heard some horror stories about Joe Jones as a manager. And speaking to a friend of Shine's, he told me basically like when Something You Got came out, that there was a lot of interest in him, but sort of like the story that you tell in the book, where you had an opportunity that he just didn't take advantage of. It seemed like Shine was in kind of a similar situation with him.
The word is he was a shyster. But the
Yeah,
thing about it, when Tell Like It Is came out, I was just off the streets, with a hit record, and had all kind of people coming to me, hey man, I'm a manager, and I'm asking them, so, man, what I'm going to do? I'm go on the road and do what? I don't have clothes, I don't have no, music or, don't you have to worry about that because most of the places will have the record on the record box, and they can really, it sounded so stupid. And then Joe came in, and his idea was sounded better than the rest of them. So he was, you know, then he kind
right.
of backdated his contract to make, because I had signed with somebody, and he backdated his contract. So the other guy was null and void. And he opened some doors for me, but he was like for himself, really.
Right. Yeah, Wardell Kazera told me, he had some similar, I think, some bad experiences with him too, and um, yeah,
What
it's a
else,
shame.
what else? Another um, fixture of New Orleans that I call him the unsung hero.
Absolutely. I feel really fortunate because I got to know him after Katrina, and spend a lot of time with them, and yeah, just someone with just immense talent that everyone in the community and the industry recognized, but just never got the financial rewards that he deserved from all of that.
That's why when the Neville brothers did Fire on the Bayou in 1981, with Joe Don, who was the producer, well, he knew about what
Right.
else, done some other stuff with him. So he called him up to New York, and he got Leon Pendarvis, who was the keyboard player for Saturday Night Live, to write a chart on Mona Lisa. And he got Wardell. He asked Wardell, Wardell, do you need a piano in the room? He said, no, all I need is a tuning fork. He wrote that chart with a tuning fork. I don't know how. But
Yeah.
anyway, he was in the studio and they played Leon's version. It was banging. And then the New York string player just snickering at Wardell like he was a country bumpkin or something like that. And he put his music in front of on the music stand, and they played it, and they all had to stand up and hit the thing on. I had tears in my eyes. So give that man his prop.
I love that. I loved reading that from your perspective because Wardell had told me actually a version of that story, except when he left out the part about them thinking he was country. But what he told me was when they did that, he said he didn't know what it was. He's like, they all stood up and started doing that. He was like, I did something wrong. They said, no, man, they do that when they really respect the arrangement.
Yeah,
So yeah, he laughed about it. He was
and
like, I
I
don't
was
know
I
what
was
you're talking
dedicating that song to my mom and dad. So it was real special.
about. Yeah, it's a beautiful song, beautiful arrangement. Um, I want to go a little bit back in time. We got into the late 60s already, but I wanted to double back and ask you if I could about some of your minute recording days earlier. In particular, I'm curious about did you record that? They had a place like on Barone, a little studio and office, but I'm trying to talk to people to find out what that place was about. Because I think Cato recorded there a little bit, and a couple of people recorded somewhere on Barone, but I can't quite pin down who was doing what in that facility. I thought I would
I don't
search
remember
it up.
wrong. I remember him being somewhere. I'd have to look it up, but
Yeah,
it was Cosmos, studio.
right.
Everybody came to Cosmo. I mean, like Larry Williams, Little Richard, you know, a lot of people came to Cosmo.
Yeah, he was at Governor Nichols at that time, I
Yeah,
imagine.
right. Governor Nichols, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and when you were doing those recordings, I wonder because you wrote a little bit about the Dewdrop Inn, which I'm curious because I'm actually writing. They're fixing to reopen it in a few weeks,
Yeah.
um, and I'm actually writing something about that. So I was curious to ask you about it. Do you have well, first of all, you have any like thoughts about it reopening?
Well, I mean, it sounded good. I mean, it was a great place. It was for me, it was an era, they could never, duplicate because it was that time and that time is gone. So I hope whatever they're doing with it turns out great.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have fond memories of it.
Uh, do any of those memories jump out at you? Anything in particular?
But like I said, like Mac Rebenek said, if Ray Charles gonna be there, he's gonna be there. Like I hang out there, me and Scarface John.
Yeah,
Sometimes we couldn't get in, we'd be out in the front. When we did go in, we could see people like my brother Art was in there, Cato and James Booker, uh, Joe Tex, Big Joe Turner.
yeah. I see the ads, like the old ads for those shows, and just kind of seems impossible that they had that
Yeah.
much talent on the same stage on the same night.
Well,
Uh,
New Orleans was like that, and all the musicians in New Orleans were like family.
yeah. Did you ever perform there?
Oh yeah.
When were you
Me,
doing that? Like in the earlier in the 60s, like with the stuff with Alan?
me and RT did some stuff together, my brother,
Yeah.
and
Um,
then we
um,
we would do doo-wop in there.
oh, really?
Oh yeah.
So you were in there pretty early on then.
Hmm.
Um, what was it like? What was the stage like? What did it sound like? Full room?
It was great. I mean, it's a long, long time ago, but
Yeah,
I remember I had great times there, you know. And they had a place next door called Dirty's Steakhouse. Had the best red beans. Well, Dewdrop had good red beans too.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, Ray Charles was always talking about the red beans at the Dewdrop.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they're gonna put red beans on the menu whenever they reopen. We'll
Have
see.
to do that.
We'll see what they taste like. But actually, the guy who's reopening it is the nephew of the Doucettes that had the nightcap.
Yeah, yeah. Alfred, which one?
Well, so the nephew's name is Curtis.
Oh, Curtis. All right, yeah.
It was his uncle's. Alfred is one of his uncles.
Right.
Um, so he's got a little bit of the lineage.
Well, the Doucet's also on the club that the meter started in, called the Nightcap on Louisiana Crown Lit.
That's right, right. Yeah, and I was gonna ask you about the nightcap. Like, it was kind of like a swanky kind of cocktail lounge situation in there, from what I can.
It was a great place. The first owner was Elliot Bottery. He's a real nice guy. Then the Doucet's took over.
Okay, and yeah, I love the way you described it in the book. Having Saints players come out and and all of that.
They'd be in there at 3 in the morning, had to play a game that day.
Maybe that's why they went out and went 1-12 or whatever they did in the.
Yeah, well, plus I mean back in them days, so Usher Manning, he didn't have nobody blocking for him. They kept
No,
him.
it was lean times. They may as well have fun at the nightcap.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that scene is interesting to me because it's one like the Neville Sounds and Sam and the Soul Machine kind of era wasn't captured on recording in quite the same way, right? And so it's a little bit, in my mind, it kind of lives in legend a little bit because there's less, to hang on to about it. So I was just curious about like, yeah, I just wanted to ask you more about musically what y'all were up to at that time. It seemed like your repertoire was pretty broad, huh? If you're playing all night doing covers
Yeah,
and
I mean, doing covers, yeah, like I hadn't started writing anything back then. And then it was the rhythm section was Leo, George, and Zig, and it was me, Art, Cyril, and Gary Brown on saxophone, because Charles was still in New York.
uh-huh.
And
It's a hell of a band.
oh, yeah,
And there's one thing in the book that I couldn't believe that I had to ask you about, which is that you said Gary Brown would do a flip while he was playing.
no doubt. And Cyril would do that one leg James Brown thing all across the floor and splitting, and it was wild. The audience got their money's worth.
Yeah, I'm serious. So like the flip, is he like standing on a table or something? Or on
Oh,
the
he was on the floor.
he would do a standing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'd be looking at him. I'd be trying to keep his balance for him.
Another club I wanted to ask you about from around that time period is the Desert Sands.
Oh yeah.
That's another one that like isn't very well documented. Like I haven't been able to find any photos from the inside of it or anything. Like I wonder if you could just tell me what you remember about that club.
Well, that was back in them days, like we had an audience that loved us because we'd leave and go to school and get drugs, and we'd be gone an hour and a half. They still wait for us, and that was one time when Cyril, girlfriend at the time, had an argument with a guy, and he slapped her or something. And she came and ran to Cyril, and Cyril broke off the stage and running, knocking people out of his way to get to this guy. And I'm trying to say, pardon me, trying to follow him. By the time I get downstairs, I seen Cyril had the guy hemmed up against this brick wall, and I saw something shiny in his hand. And I was running trying to get to him. By the time I saw Cyril's jugular vein.
Oh,
So I went ballistic, man. We beat the dude,
yeah,
and so we brought Cyril to the hospital. And he got stitches all up there. He came back and finished the gig.
that's incredible.
Yeah,
Um, that's incredible. Um, were y'all like was that a regular spot for y'all, Desert Sands?
yeah. We had a few regular spots, but that we stayed there probably the longest out of all of them. The next one was across the river, the Greystone Lounge.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because there was a Greystone way back in the day, like on the East Bank, I think.
It was across the river from New Orleans.
The Greystone that y'all played was across the river.
Right.
Yeah. Where was it at? Was it Gretna or something?
Yeah, but not far from the bridge, really. Just
Okay.
across that far to go.
Yeah, I'll have to find that one. But yeah, I think there was a Greystone. There's a photo of Dave Bartholomew playing at a Greystone that's like was up around Hollygrove or something. But I think that could have been like the 40s.
It must have been, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious also about Prout's Alhambra. I think that
Yeah.
one was on Claiborne. What do you remember about that place?
Well, it was me, Willie West, and the great Tan Canary, John Adams,
Oh yeah.
do show. That was our place, and it was like you know, people come there dressed up. It wasn't, they go in the Tipitinas with your jeans on. People come dressed up, and it was cocktails and dinner, whatever. But me and Willie West and John Adams put on a hell of a show there.
I can't. So to me, like you and Johnny Adams on the same stage, it's like that's like too much voice. So like I can't. It's hard to imagine me. It's hard for me to imagine like I consider each of y'all to be a front man. How did that work musically? Like what were
Well,
y'all
we,
doing?
we did our own thing. It wasn't
Okay.
it wasn't three of us together.
Okay.
Well, me and Willie West would do a duet. Me and John Adams like to do the Amazing Grace.
Oh wow.
We also played the Neville Brothers, Johnny Adams, Irma Thomas, Solomon Brake played East Berlin before the wall came down.
Wow.
And me and Johnny and Cyril and Irma used to close the show with the Amazing Grace and watch the people. The government would pay for the show and all that for the people, and they was hungry for the music.
Yeah, I bet. That's a really amazing. So that must have been happening like right before the wall came down, huh? When they were, yeah. Wow. That's really powerful.
But they said when they were tearing the wall down, they were playing my version of Bob Dylan's "With God on Your Side"
Mm,
all over Europe.
wow. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the book was also really interesting about all your relationships with all these other figures, Dylan and Keith Richards and all of that. Um, it seems like you're somebody who managed to um, keep one foot in the community in New Orleans while you were touring internationally.
Oh yeah, we represented New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that for New Orleanians in the 80s and 90s, it was a point of pride to see you and your brothers in those places, right?
Hmm.
I think there was your relationships in the community were such that I think people could say, that's us in East Berlin, right? That's us in Japan or
Yeah.
wherever y'all were.
Oh yeah.
Um, And so, yeah, I just really appreciated that. And my mother, she would go to the Winn-Dixie on Chapatulas and see you and come back all excited, and then like the next day you're
Yeah.
playing for some head of state or something. It seemed like a very New Orleans way to approach success in the industry.
Yeah, it's respect.
Yeah, yeah. Were there any other places? I just want to, because I know we've got to go, but real quick, anything else from the 13th Ward around Valence that maybe didn't make the cut in the book, or that I didn't ask you about that is significant to you?
Well, they had this place across St. Charles Street on Valence called Club Valencia.
Oh yeah, yeah, the little teen club.
Yeah, we used to play that a lot, with the high school, with the Avalons, the
Mhm.
Hawkins. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for this.
thank you.
I really appreciate it, and thank you for writing the book. I learned a lot from it, and it ties together a whole lot of history.
Oh yeah, I told it like it was.
Indeed, you did.
It's a roller coaster of a life.
Yeah, and you write about it with real honesty and directness, and it's powerful to read for that reason, and I appreciate that.
All right,
All right, thank you so much.
you take care.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, Jordan. See you.
Thank you.
All right, Daniel,
All right, see you, Aaron. Talk to you in a little bit.
take care.